I start.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. I'm Zhen. Joining me here today, we have Aileen, Jian and Kenneth. So today it's our pleasure to be giving you a presentation topic on intercultural communication. Our group will be focusing on a case study that involves Abercrombie and Fitch. So I'll be the first one to speak. I'll first start off by identifying the case study, followed by the netizen reactions. Next, Henry will be going through the Singapore Code of Advertising Practice, particularly on how it really violates the codes. Kenneth will be providing some recommendation for the authorities, hopefully to improve the situation. And last but not least, Jian will be going through some of the learning outcomes from this case study. Okay, before I begin, please have your attention on this image. I believe many of you have seen this image from, be it on the internet or walking along Orchard Road. So here's my question to you. Is this appropriate to you? I believe every single one of y'all have your own opinion to this. This applies to our netizen as well, which brings me to the next slide. The reactions of the netizen. There are generally two groups of people, and they are the approving ones and the disapproving ones. From the approving ones, it seems that they want an open-minded culture. Why is this so? To them, it's a matter of perspective whether you can accept the advertisement. One netizen actually commented that it's a very creative way to advertise to actually boost sales quota. Another actually commented that there's no difference from a model in the swimming trunk advertisement industry. On the other hand, from the disapproving group, it seems that they want a conservative culture. They deem this advertisement as provocative and indecent. Why is this so? They say, what will happen if a children or teenager walk past the advertisement? What do you think they will think about the advertisement? As you can see from both disapproving and approving groups, there are traces of individualism and collectivism within them. Individualism is defined as someone who is motivated by their own preference, rights, needs, usually giving themselves priority rather than to a whole group. From nudity posting as an attention getter to no difference from similar genre advertisement, you can see that the approving group actually exhibit individualism traits in them. As for the collectivism group, they are usually motivated by group values, duty, or decision. This can be seen from the disapproving group, as they are concerned about the children or teenager well-being. You can see from both of these points that the difference in cultural differences can actually struck this controversy. Now, let us now take a look at this incident from another perspective. Henry will be going through the Singapore Code of Advertising Practice next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zhen. So you guys have seen the sexualized advertising poster here and the shirtless model poster. You guys have also learned through Zhen presentation about the sexualized dress code marketing. Moving forward, I will talk about the issue of Singapore Code of Advertising Practice (SCAP) SCAPE guideline, specifically holding on decency. As shown in this slide, this is the article writing under Chapter 2, Act 2, Section 2.1, which the poster was deemed to have violated. Okay, but I will not read out the statement, but rather allow you to focus on the keyword decency. So, how is decency determined, or how do any one of us, or rather the advertising authority, AFAS, determines indecency? Let's take a look at this picture. I'm pretty sure that most of you have seen this picture before, but assume if you have not seen this picture before, and if I were to ask you to choose who is the good person here, I highly believe that you will most likely choose the girl at your first impression. However, that is not the case. It turns out that the seemingly bad guy is actually holding a bouquet while the little girl is holding an axe. What do I imply? Everything you see will be based on your perception. So what is perception? Perception is what you interpret based on your 5 senses. So given this picture, probably even after looking at a long time, you're still unsure if it's a 3 or 4. But whether is it a 3 or 4, it depends on how and where you look from, which determines the reality you see. Moving forward, Thus, the case of indecency here of the A and F poster will be based on perception. We all know that law applies to everyone in society, and indecency is based on the prevailing standards of the society, and indecency is in the eyes of the beholder. The community shall reflect this belief. This is especially true for Singapore because Singapore is still largely perceived as a country with long-term orientation and virtue cultural dimension. As such, the case of indecency has been seen as a source of negative externalities. Remember, Zhen also touched on that. The poster may be inappropriate for the children and the teenagers' well-being. That is an example of negative externality. So, therefore, in Singapore's culture, the people gets to determine what is indecent. It means if there is enough people deem the poster to be indecent, it shall be considered indecent. Thus, in the case of true versus virtue, the issue of virtue is always going to be of particular importance to Singapore. Thus, ASAS, which is the advertising authority, heeded the people's decision and deemed the poster unacceptable because they feel it may be a little bit too obscene, unethical, and disrespectful. So, taking a look at this picture again, this actually brings up an important and common paradox about sexualized advertising and marketing. How is a shirtless model poster an advertisement for clothing? When advertising and marketing works the wrong way, it distracts audience and demeans the advertiser and brand in consumers' eyes. Therefore, the netizens who feels that the poster is too lewd and inappropriate, they are the ones who form the community and enforce the community standards by objecting to the poster. And thus, the A and F poster was taken down and eventually suspended. So, nonetheless, guidelines and policies can be better improved to reduce the ambiguity and also to prevent similar cases from happening again. Now, I'll pass on the time to Kenneth, who will continue to share this aspect with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aileen. Now, Kenneth, I'll be sharing with you some of the recommendations that we have that the authorities can take into consideration for future advertisements. Firstly, there are two main authorities in Singapore who are regulating advertisements, namely the ASAS, Advertising Standards Authority of Singapore. They are a self-regulatory body of the advertising industry, and they are in charge of promoting ethical advertising. Next is the MDA, the Media Development Authority, and they are in charge of regulating and developing the media sector as a whole, which includes the advertising sector. Now, firstly, as mentioned just now in the guideline, there was a term used which was decency, and this term decency is pretty vague. So we feel that should there be a better definition of the terms in the guidelines, it would help in determining whether or not a particular advertisement had violated the rules or not. Although in this case, it's not simply just a case of whether or not the advertisement had violated the rules. Hence, having better definitions can only bring us this far. There still has to be a balance and some room for flexibility. Next is that the authorities has to be consistent in their standards in terms of approving advertisements. For example, if a certain advertisement is rejected for a particular reason, then another advertisement which has the same thing should not be approved, and vice versa. Next, Singapore is a multicultural society, as we all know, and in the recent years we have been having more and more people coming into our country, and these people will comprise of different cultures. They will have different views and different values, but then again, it's all a matter of perception, as mentioned earlier. Even within the same cultural group or people from the same place, they will have different views on or ideas on what is decent and what is indecent. So in order to tackle this issue, authorities can consider having a regular review of their guidelines. For example, maybe every 3 to 5 years, in order to suit what the majorities are thinking. A decision has to be made. What I mean by this is that, for example, we have decided that we want to reject a particular the advertisement which is considered indecent, so as to protect our children from seeing such images. Then all advertisements which has the same level of nudity has to be rejected as well. On the other hand, we can see it from another point of view, considering that diversity as an opportunity. We can consider accommodating this so-called nudity, and but then again, there's a limit to everything, and this limit has to be determined beforehand. What I mean is that we definitely cannot have a fully nude poster in public, because we know that that is the limit. Okay, lastly, Singapore has been known to be a society with a high uncertainty avoidance, which means that we are more unwilling to take risks and are willing to accept changes. However, as mentioned, there have been different people that have comprised in our country now, which also means that the mindsets and the cultures in our country will very likely be influenced by the variety of people here. This probably indicates that there's a shift away from the high uncertainty avoidance. Taking this into consideration, authorities can exercise some flexibility in terms of approving advertisements, and should the majority of the public feel that it's acceptable, then they can carry on, and if the majority feels that it's unacceptable, then it can be scrapped. Okay, now I'll pass the time on to Jian to talk about the lessons learned. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth. So now, having a better understanding of the case study, what are some of the takeaways which we can have? First, allow me to reiterate some differences between the creators of the A&F advertisement as well as Singaporeans in general. In America, a high task orientation culture is prominent, where the focus is on getting the job done. For the case of the advertisement, a picture of the male model is simply put up to show the stylishness of the brand. It is considered to be straightforward and conveys the message that the apparel sold by the company is fashionable and the job of the advertiser is considered done. However, a high social orientation culture can be expected in Singapore, where people are more concerned about feelings. So this advertisement, although it's an effective one in serving its purpose, it is not accepted here because it has generated negative feelings. Also, as mentioned previously by Zhen, the Americans generally have a liberal culture as compared to the conservative one here in Singapore, which means the advertisement is seen to be as a form of creative advertising and is widely accepted in the US. However, it is regarded to be provocative and indecent by Singaporeans who are still largely conservative. As a result, these differences in cultures led to a huge debate on the internet on whether the advertisement should or should not be accepted in Singapore. With that being said, we can see that it is very important to first understand your audience cultural background first before embarking on any projects. This is especially so for those of us who will be graduating soon and might even join multinational companies. And we'll cross paths with clients from many other different countries, and you realize that they will have very different background from that of us. On top of being aware that there are some differences in cultures, it is also important to respect these differences. Even if an approach might be the most effective one, it should not be employed if it causes any unpleasantness. So, how can we understand foreign cultures? You could do so by interaction with your foreign colleagues or even clients, which include having meals together or engaging them in conversations and discussions about their culture. Or you could also observe them at their workplace, such as how they behave in the presence of authority, how they respond to criticisms and compliments, etc. The most important of all, do not make any assumptions about the things that you do not know. Just like the saying which some of us may be familiar with, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Now, having a better understanding of your audience's cultural background, you can then proceed to customize your products and services to cater to the needs of the audience. Take for example, the fast food giant McDonald's in Singapore. They have their restaurants halal certified in order to reach out to the Muslims and establish a larger consumer base. By providing food that do not consist of pork and lard, they were able to meet the needs of the Muslim consumers. McDonald's also introduced new burgers such as the satay burger to capture the attention of its customers, as it is the local cuisine in Singapore. By doing so, it arouses the interest of its consumers and ensures that their product is well received. This might in turn boost the popularity of the company. So, to summarize, we have shared with you the responses of Singaporeans towards the A&F advertisement, the violations of the SEAP guidelines, some recommendations which we have to prevent similar cases from happening again, as well as the lessons that we can learn from this case study. In conclusion, Singapore is a non-homogeneous society where there are people from many different cultural backgrounds. This explains the varying responses which we have towards the seemingly offensive advertisement. Although we have been taught the concept of racial harmony since young, the ability to befriend people from other races alone is insufficient. There's more for us to do in terms of understanding and respecting other cultures in order to communicate effectively. With that, we have come to the end of our presentation, and thank you for your kind attention.
So when did this fiasco happen? Was it
In 2011, it
on so it was quite recent?
was up during the June to September period. After September, it was taken down.
It was taken down. Was it mainly due to the netizens' responses, or was it really that they had actually that the advertisement had actually violated the guidelines of advertising agencies? Because you showed that slide which shows that there's this something about decency, right? But there isn't very clear guidelines as to what is decency or indecency. So how did they decide on taking down the advert? Was it an asked to take down, or did they do it voluntarily?
I think that because the guidelines were not clear and there were very strong responses from the public, so this shows that their advertisement was not actually accepted in Singapore because they took that
So they took
advertisement
it down voluntarily, and it wasn't because the Singapore Advertising Agency made them take it down.
First of all, because we are able to, netizens' reactions, we are able to track because it can be seen on internet, but it doesn't really represent the entire population of Singapore, but because of the netizens' reaction, we can track, and under the guideline, SCAP is able to has an empower to the ability to take down the poster advertisement, or if it's deemed to have violate their act.
So who actually took down the posters? Was it voluntarily taken down, or was it taken down by what SCA?
A&F was required by SCAP, which is regulated by ASAS, is Advertising Standards Authority of Singapore, to take down the poster.
So in the end, it wasn't voluntarily taken down. You were asked. But you can see from this, after this episode, right, there appears to be many other episodes of advertisers actually using sexual content to advertise, right? But I don't know whether from your research, did you notice that there were also the same reactions from netizens? Because I think I read recently there was this particular cafe owned by 3 women. They actually use women's breasts to advertise their cafe. But I think in the end they took it down. But I can't remember whether they were asked to take it down or they did voluntarily. what's your view on this?
We haven't really come across any other examples, but think that it could be due to the trend in using sexual appeal to advertise. This can also be seen in certain music videos, especially those produced in the US, whereby singers, they have very provocative dance or movements or actions to sell their song in that sense. So I believe that there is a trend going in that direction, which some of the advertising companies may pick up along the way.
So what do you think is that? Do you think, what's your opinion? Because I think some of the netizens thought that this particular advertisement is inappropriate, but what's your opinion?
I find that it is, in today's society, specifically for Singapore, it's actually very difficult to draw a line between sexual appeal and etiquette issues.
But this hasn't got to do with ethics.
But ethics in terms of, because they feel that they don't want to harm they don't want to affect children, teenagers negatively, which what Zhen has touched on. And because according the guideline has not been reviewed since 2008. That's why under our recommendation, which is mentioned by Kenneth, actually we recommend that it should be reviewed or maybe check again, regulated every 3 to 5 years.
More clearly define what they mean.
Because there will always be new cases.
But what's your opinion on this advertisement? Do you think the netizens have been, they have overreacted and actually there's really nothing? It's not as if the male actually showed his private part or whatever. It's just, it's not. I mean, what's your opinion on this?
It's not that. Yes. Online, right? Usually people will, like if I'm in approval of this advertisement, then I will not comment on it. So most generally is negative comments on that started this, that had been started online, because people who see it and they are not in approval of it, then they will go online and try to voice out their own.
So having said that, our opinion is that we are not against the poster. We feel that, but law is law. If the advertising authority deem that the poster has violated the law, it has been taken down.
So your opinion is actually you think the advert is fine.
It's fine.
And you feel that the netizens have overreacted.
Usually
The
they are the ones
netizens
who will leave a comment.
might not be fully representative of the whole society.
As in, what we feel is, this is from the netizen side. Let us now look at another angle from the authority side. So let's say if A and M, right, they were to actually conduct their studies to actually understand our culture in Singapore, then they might not in the first place put up the advertisement. So it's a matter of actually, it's a two-way communication between the advertiser itself and the netizen itself.
Any other questions from the floor? Anything that you would like to ask?
For recommendations, like you say about stringent guidelines, like more stringent guidelines, do you have any examples of how stringent it can be?
I do not say stringent guidelines. I mean, like they have to come up with some idea of what is really considered indecent. Like if I'm exposing like a picture with as the model is exposing his private parts, then that is considered as indecent. Something like that. But the thing is that now in the guideline, they did not say anything at all as to what is decent or indecent.
But they only term the decency to be something, indecency to be something as offensive. So it's still very vague.
So you mean that it must be more detailed and such?
The terms that they use in their guidelines have to be better defined rather than quite ambiguous terms like what they mentioned just now, indecent. So what is considered indecent and what is considered decent?
So there were no clear definitions of what constitutes indecency. Any other questions from the floor? No questions. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation.